Hello and welcome back to another edition of Experience Marshfield. I'm very excited to have Matt McLean here today of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob.
So I'm very excited to get to the stuff that you are doing because you all are going through big upgrades right now. And it's actually very, very exciting. So it'll be fun to talk about that. But just give the audience a little bit of an idea of who you are and how you got into this venture.
Okay, great. So I'm originally from Montana. I've lived in 6 different states, and so I guess you could call me a failed musician. I wanted to be a rock star.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's great.
I played in bands, actually worked in recording studios, and when I was doing some of that work in Seattle, I have a degree in audio production engineering. I was at a recording studio, and when like kind of Napster and CD sales stopped happening, a lot of these recording studios were closing. So I kind of was like looking for another job, another thing to do, and I randomly met a gentleman that owned and operated 3 hotels in downtown Seattle. And so he asked me if I was interested in a sales and marketing position with a hotel, and I didn't know hotels had salespeople. And so one thing led to another, and I started working for him. So I learned how to do sales and marketing for hotels in Seattle, Washington. And our hotel was right next to the Space Needle, and so that was somewhat of an easy pitch of come visit Seattle right by the Space Needle.
Wow.
And so I did that for about 3 or 4 years. Ended up meeting my wife, and we thought we might stay in Seattle, but she was kind of on the job hunt and actually took a job in Atlanta, Georgia. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, continued my career in hotel sales and marketing. I was the director of sales and marketing for a few years for Marriott Fairfield Inn in the Atlanta area.
Wow.
And I got to work a lot with convention and visitors bureaus and chambers of commerce in the city, so I learned a lot about that. And then I also, after a few years there, I ended up getting a job working in sports tourism. And so I worked for a company that did what we call tournament housing. So there are many large tournaments run around the country, and we would be contracted to help get the teams there, book hotels near the fields, help coordinate the travel arrangements for those. So it was really cool. The world's largest baseball tournament is hosted in the Atlanta area. There's about 2,000 teams, and so that was one of our biggest projects. And one of the cooler memories I have from that job is that the head of scouting for the Yankees baseball organization called me in, so we set up all their scouts and hotels so they could go scout the premier athletes, that were up and coming to, get drafted. And so then my wife was working for the CDC, Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. She's a research scientist. And, we wanted to get closer back to home and family. She has family in the Minneapolis area. And so one of her friends in Atlanta was from Marshfield. And so I told her about Marshfield and the great research that is done at the Marshfield Clinic. And so there were some job openings that were kind of in her field. They flew us up here to check it out. I kind of wandered into the Chamber of Commerce next to the Holiday Inn and said, hey, we might be moving to town. Here's my resume. What do you think I should, who should I talk to? Where should I go? And they said, oh, our Convention and Visitors Bureau director is here, Sharon. Why don't you go talk to her? So I went over and talked to her for a few minutes, handed her my resume, and she was like, I'm retiring in a couple months.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of how I fell into this role, and that was about 6 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah, so kind of, the kind of a random coincidence, and we enjoy living here in Marshfield. I have 2 children, a soon-to-be 6-year-old boy and an 8-year-old daughter, and we love it here. Enjoy the city, and I really enjoy my job. Our mission of the Convention and Visitors Bureau is to attract visitors to Marshfield through marketing, development of attractions and events, and to create economic impact. So basically, get visitors here, let them spend money, and have a good time.
Have a good time. What's very interesting is it's to go from a musician, then to get into hotel and restaurant kind of management, but in sales, I guess, because that is a fast-moving industry.
It is, yeah.
Much less in Atlanta. I mean, those are big markets.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is about that whole story is, now that you're here, you could kind of see that the chapters were being written to get here.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know, maybe that's too philosophical, but as you were going on and on, I'm like, holy buckets, this was made for you.
Yeah, it's a good fit. I try to draw from my experience to different things we get involved with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We've, helped work with the Wenzel Family Plaza, is putting on a lot of live music. We work with the Vox Concert Series, live music here that brings visitors to town. I've worked with sports. I used to work for the tournament housing, so we work with the baseball groups here to help them run tournaments here. And then I learned a lot about conventions when I worked for the hotels. We'd always, be dealing with conventions, and so we're excited to bring conventions to Marshfield and help facilitate that.
So so you've been working here now 6 years? Mm-hmm. 6 years. How is it different now from when you took over?
Sure.
What has that time been like?
We've gone through a lot of changes, and we got some more on the plate here. So I think probably one of the more drastic changes as social media has just exploded. When I first came on board, I think the group we had a Facebook page, had maybe 100 people that followed it, and currently right now we have 14,000 people that follow it. We also have an Instagram account, which we have almost, I think, 250 plus, growing strong. And so just the way that we've marketed to visitors has drastically changed. And
so in that social media, that's very interesting. How many of those 14,000, because that's a big number, how many of those 14,000 would you say are local to Marshfield, as opposed to surrounding that have interest in Marshfield? Maybe they'll bring their convention here, or
or come on a leisure angle. Yeah, it's really only about 20 to 30% of ours are we consider local, and that's within about a 20-30 mile radius. And so really we're really trying to talk to people that live in Eau Claire, La Crosse, Madison, Milwaukee, and other 2 to 3 hour away, so that when they come for the visitor here, our target is to try to attract visitors to stay in the hotels, because that's when they spend the most money. And if they stay overnight, they spend a lot of money. So we target those groups that are kind of that distance. And so a lot of that is geared towards the leisure side of, vacations and marketing. But then when you get the message out there to it, it hits the meeting planners and the sports planners and the different things like that.
Very interesting. I had the general manager here of the Holiday Inn, and they were talking about their occupancy rate during the week is sometimes, quite often in the summer, 80 to 90%, primarily business. Mm-hmm. And those visitors, I think you've got some interesting statistic. If people come here for the day, there's a certain amount that they spend, but if they stay overnight, what are those breakdowns?
Yeah, for sure. So the State Department of Tourism publishes the numbers that the average visitor that comes to Marshfield for the day would spend about $58. And you look at that as a lot of times food, gas, retail are kind of the main elements of that. When the average visitor comes and spends the night in a hotel, they spend $180 per person. So if there's 3 people in that room, times that by 3. And so that is obviously you guys pay money for the hotel, but they spend more at restaurants, they spend more at retail, and they spend more in the community. And and then we've grown the hotel occupancy rates have been growing almost 10% a year for the last 3 years, and so there's a lot more visitors coming to Marshfield than previously. And that's one of the other elements, I think, from when I started to when I changed. The board of directors that hired me knew I had a background in sports, and so I think our sports tourism has really grown. We've added new baseball tournaments. We got the Badger State Games baseball just last year, and this was their 2nd year. And the hockey group has been amazing and added multiple tournaments. And curling club, which I'm a member of, also has been running more tournaments. And so we felt that side of the sports segment is great for us. Being in the center of the state, we can host statewide competitions. And we started the first ever state championships of cornhole. And so that's something that I put my stamp on of, I was at a sporting convention, I think it was was it Oklahoma City, of, different areas trying to attract sporting events, and walking down the aisle like NCAA basketball, can't do that in Marshfield, right. And then looking at these just big massive ones, and I saw bag toss, cornhole, we can do that.
That's great, though.
Exactly.
Still a championship.
Yeah, so we typically get about 100 of the best players and their friends and families to come during Dairy Fest, and it has really helped us put us on the map, too. We've got a lot of really good PR from it. And
my guess would be that there are those, it's nice for the tourism. Um, Certainly, all of our businesses profit or benefit from that. And of course, that's other people then that see Marshfield and go, hey, I might move there.
Sure.
They come here, and that would be the hope, because the school system is great, jobs.
Yeah, you have to be really a visitor first. And so that's how I think most people make a decision if they're move. You know, obviously jobs are important, but I think right now with how strong the economy is here, a lot of people are making the decision, I want to live there. You know, it's maybe family or they like the lifestyle. And so there's the opportunity for a lot of people to just say, you know, I can find a job, but I want to live where I want to live. Right. And then coming back to the jobs thing too, the State Department of Tourism had published some numbers for our county, and there's over 2,000 jobs that are supported by tourism in Wood County related to restaurants, hotels, you know, retail, all that.
So I see the baseball tournaments, of course, over there by Hackman Field and stuff like that, and those are always fun.
Yeah.
I live right over by there, and you always see when you go there on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and especially on Saturdays, booked with tournaments going on and whatnot. What kind of impact do you think that the new athletic stadium at the high school, I personally think that's going to help bring in more tourism, because there's going to be able to be football events, soccer tournaments, things like that. Do you think that facility is going to have an impact on tourism?
You know, I think it will in certain elements. You know, the main, I think, football is not the typical, I guess I would say, sports tourism element, in that most of the events we work with are multiple days. And so they're like 3 or 4 day baseball tournaments, 3 or 4 day this. You get a lot of the activities at the hotels, and our primary source of funding is hotels. But I think the football, when there's like the playoff game or something, will bring definitely visitors in for the day trip, which, you know, that $58 a head will add up. I think one thing that you know, the new facilities are always, you have to have great facilities to run events, but you also have to have great organizations and people, and what we call is called a local organizing committee, or an LOC, and you really can't have events happen without those. And so like I actually a few years ago bid on, there was a national table tennis tournament, and we had I think the facility at the high school would have worked, but we didn't really have any local experts on table tennis at the time. And so there was actually some folks in Wausau that I was talking with of, would you come down and help? And so we unfortunately lost that bid to another place, because they had a very active table tennis, you know, group that knew the sport, knew all this. So it's kind of, you need all those pieces to kind of come together. And so I have been chatting with the soccer groups. They haven't really run multi-day soccer tournaments in Marshfield, but I think possibly having that as a key field for maybe a championship, they might add something to the inventory where they feel like, hey, you know, we got some interested people that want to organize and, you know, get all the parents to help out and do that. That I think there's some opportunities with the new football stadium. I think actually we've already got some more interest with the new YMCA for basketball too. And so I've got a couple of groups I'm talking with about expanding basketball tournaments, or adding new basketball tournaments to the region. That new YMCA is just nothing shy of amazing. No, it is fantastic. I mean, they just did a thing. So you talked about the organization. You know, it's a lot. We had, you know, this little event here, Farm Tech Days, that you remember that? Yeah, I sometimes have nightmares. But what was very interesting is the fact of, for the general person like myself, it was flawless. Oh, I mean, I think there was one day where there was some rain, but I worked the gates for a couple of hours and stuff like that. I mean, people went through. People were having a good time. It was easy to get to the food places. There was bathrooms everywhere. There was a lot of organization that went into that I don't think most people, myself included, see. Sure. Because that kind of thing doesn't just happen. No, I can give you a little background on that. So I guess it probably would have been over 4 years ago now that I was approached to be on the executive committee to explore hosting Farm Tech Days. And so there was a gentleman with UW Extension that had thought, you know, I think we could do this in Marshfield. And so he kind of reached out to, you know, some people in the community that, you know, might be players to be involved. And so we had a few meetings, and we're like, yeah, I think we can do this. And then we put a bid together to take to the state organization. So my office put together kind of like a PowerPoint presentation of, you know, here's what we have, you know, we can handle your event. And so we presented to them, and we won the bid. And so then we went on to, okay, now we need to see if there's farms that are interested in doing it. So we were able actually to get 6 farms to apply to be a host. And so then we, I think, spent, probably a month or two visiting all those farms, talking to the people, looking at their applications. And then finally chose one farm, which was actually a partner of 2 farms. And then we really delved into logistics of land. Where the hills are. You can't put tents on big hills. You can't have waterways running through this. And so there's a lot of engineering kind of went into
Absolutely.
it. And I had thrown my hat in the ring to try to help be the leader of what we called Tent City. And so it's basically, I probably got in over my head, but it was we have to build a 60-acre tent city in the middle of a farm field. And then we had almost $250,000 worth of tents, trailers, a couple, I think we had probably over 150 golf carts and ATVs and UTVs. And then we coordinated over 2,000 volunteers between setup, working the event, and tear down. And it was, I kind of think it was like a Super Bowl. Like, I kind of feel like we hosted like the Super Bowl of agriculture in our area. And so the host families' farms were just right on the edge of Marshfield, and hotels were booked a year in advance, and people stayed in Rapids and Point and Wausau, and it was huge. I mean, it was a massive deal. We estimate that 50,000 visitors came and created over $3 million worth of economic impact between that event and 2 other events that summer. So if I have to back up, I think we said Farm Tech itself was about 43,000 people with about 2.5 million. Then we also hosted the National Fur Trappers that summer, as well as a State Square and Round Dance convention. So last summer was crazy.
What was very interesting is when you have that size event come to the city, you're worried, public safety. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is traffic. How is that going to affect? I think you all did such a great job of diverting certain things to go certain places because it really was not bad.
Yeah, there was so much effort put in by city staff, county staff. I mean, there was a committee basically just based on traffic and safety. And so there were just tons of meetings of planning of, well, let's retime the lights, let's, send out directions to go this way and that way and avoid, that, and maybe delay some construction here or make some new construction so that it would be good.
So you do a lot of different things, but you're also going to be going through some changes or some upgrades. Tell us about those.
Sure. So we, I guess I would say the ball kind of started about 2.5 years ago. We had a consultant come in named Roger Brooks, and he was kind of a nationally known expert on tourism, kind of understanding how communities that are really good with tourism are good. And so he did what we had asked was called a tourism assessment of Marshfield. What things are we doing good? What things can we work on? And really, when he came in, spent about a week here, toured every area, and kind of did a bunch of secret shopping and did different things, and then gave us about a 3-hour presentation at Hotel Marshfield, and then also kind of a follow-up big report. And so I really wasn't. I mean, I had a few ideas of areas we could work on and different things that he thought would maybe be good, but really kind of blew my mind that it really was a community assessment. It really was more about the community as a whole rather than just tourism, about how do we make Marshfield, better? How can Marshfield be a better place? And so we got a lot of great ideas for that, everything from signage, about ideas about the new Wenzel Plaza. It was kind of under construction, starting construction on there, so we got a lot of roadmaps of great ideas to do there, and then really, so we've adopted a lot of those things, worked with the city on many different things, beautification of downtown. But after that initial meeting, we had lunch. We said, oh gosh, there are a lot of great ideas. We'll get partners, and we'll kind of work on this stuff, the best we can. But then what's next? And he's like, branding and getting an image of your community that really connects to a visitor. And so we started a process of doing that. So we ended up hiring an agency that specializes in tourism branding. And then we did a lot of research. We hosted probably over a half dozen focus groups, surveyed over 300 visitors or likely visitors, and really just asked them like what they like about Marshfield, what they don't, what is their impression of Marshfield. And through a lot of this research, we really came up with a new tagline, new slogan that we're currently in the soft launch phase for, called Marshfield Made New. You can see it on my shirt here. And so we're really excited about it, and really the gist of what the brand is that, Marshfield, we have some great historic elements here, but we've also are making them new. Like, I think a good example I see is that the Blue Heron Brew Pub is housed in a former historic ice cream factory. And it's really cool. So they have a lot of just this historic, amazing architecture and building, but then they're doing something kind of modern and cool, a new, microbrewery that's, really popular, of trying different kinds of beer, and they have great food. And then another element is Jurassic Park, is that they're taking old rusty things, building it into some new crazy art. And so it's kind of taking the old, making it new. And then we add the with care element as part of the message too, because one of our core visitors to Marshfield is related to the Marshfield Clinic. And so we want to try to showcase the caring elements that the clinic does. And we know that a lot of visitors, when they're coming here, they're coming here in a, maybe in distress or in challenge. So you want to try to make them comfortable, at ease, and not too complicated, just like, here's a simple message of, here's a quick list of great hotels to stay at, here's a quick list of restaurants that, you might enjoy, and some fun things to do with the family. And it's not overwhelming, and it's not, so yeah, I guess that's kind of in a nutshell, kind of what we're talking about doing with a new brand. We presented this information to the State Department of Tourism through our grant program, and they really saw that could help help Marshfield draw more tourism. And so we were lucky to receive about $35,000 in grant funding to help us relaunch a new website and really kind of completely rebrand rebrand Marshfield tourism. And so one of the other elements is that we've been known as the Marshfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yep.
And then and then we're Marshfield CVB, and then a lot of people don't know what that acronym means, or they say PVC or CVB, VCB. Yeah, and so it's been a struggle, and so really we made the call to. Our website has been visitmarshfield.com, and so as of January 1st of 2020, we'll be doing business as Visit Marshfield. It just, I think, connects with our visitor better. They understand who we are and what we do a little bit better that way, and it's not quite the mouthful.
Yeah. So the website then will be Visit Marshfield?
Yep, visitmarshfield.com. I guess the way our website's visitmarshfield.com, and so kind of what we're doing is, I think Visit Marshfield is going to be kind of who we are and what we do, and then Marshfield Made New is kind of our brand. I guess I kind of think of it as like Nike is Nike and the swoosh is their brand. And
sure.
They are kind of, we're Visit Marshfield and Marshfield Made New is our brand.
So people can go to this website and they could see everything going on in the city that particular weekend, or all the restaurants.
Exactly. And so right now we typically, I think, are averaging about 5,000 visitors a month. So that's, I think when I started we were about 1,000 a month. So we've made that about 5 times leap over the last 5 or 6 years. And so yeah, that's really kind of the core of getting information about things to do for visitors, where they can shop, where they can eat, where they can stay. And then we're just kind of, I think, every couple years you got to do a lot of work because the Google algorithms change, the Facebook algorithm changed. How do you get it in front of more people? And so we've are undertaking just a complete redesign of the site so that it really gets better search results, and we can showcase better photography, kind of refreshing our content, and really just try to have a cohesive element to our brand. I don't know if don't want to get too in the weeds here, but branding is so much more than, I think, just a picture and a name. There's if you have the same fonts, the same colors, you can kind of make a feeling happen if you do it right, and that's something that we're learning and trying to have that feeling and cohesiveness of really telling the story of Marshfield Made New and telling the story of Marshfield to visitors.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in and talking with us today. I really think, boy, when you were doing your introduction on what you've done, this is really the job for you. And you are really doing a great job there. So we really appreciate you and what you do for the city.
Great. Well, I appreciate it, Bob.
You bet. So if you'd like to go take a look at their website, you can see it right here below, It's a great thing. It's going to show you everything going on in Marshfield. Thank you for tuning in today to Experience Marshfield.